maneuver.
So, the dream is dead. As many of you know by now, I did not qualify for the first ever Hero League Championship. I would have needed to make top 8 at the online nationals, and I was eliminated in top 16. And if I'm being honest, I didn't think I'd be making this video. I didn't think I would be really involved at all for at least a couple days to a week, because I was very interested in qualifying, I guess is the best way to put it. Which is kind of a weird place to be, because when it was first announced that it would only be 32 spots, I didn't think I'd have a chance to qualify at all, especially if it was just based on points throughout the year and throughout traveling to events and stuff like that. My local regional, I didn't even top, so it wasn't something that even really seemed possible until we found out about the Nats invites and things like that. And truth be told, I've never really considered myself a competitive player. I've been really lucky that the community is fairly small, and because of rules like diversity and things like that, people were, more happy to just be the best player of a specific character, right? Because of diversity, there was hardly ever a metagame around an entire event, it'd be, and we still have like a very loose metagame, like, you have to be able to beat Kirishima 2 right now, and after that after the first Nats, I guess, you'd know that you have to deal with Tokoyami and stuff like that. But as far as like decks that I encounter in actual tournaments, I didn't fight a Kirishima until the last 2 rounds, and it was people fighting for their tournament life. I fought one Tokoyami in Swiss. I fought one Ojiro in Swiss, and Ojiro's just barely making tops, right? So people are still down to just experiment, play their favorite characters, things like that. And I think it's, a testament to game balance that these characters even feel like they have a chance. So there is that. But so for me to care so much about making it was just kind of weird. I've been super happy to just top most events. The only ones where it ever really sucks has been like world championships or what we used to call our majors cardboard events, because that's where you would win a character card or a team's asset. So those are the only ones that, really made a big deal to me. And I've been reflecting a lot on why I play Universus. And for a lot of you who follow the streams and the videos, the uploads on YouTube, you've probably heard the story for me when I first found out about Universus. I was walking into a board game shop. I was actually there to scout out the available board games and, text my group of friends what the available options were, and we'd pick out, the best ones for board game nights. And so when I saw the Terry Bogard card and the clerk behind the counter is like, oh, people are going to be here tomorrow, we can teach you how to play and stuff like that. I was like, well, I'll be here tomorrow. So I figured I'd give it a shot. And I never expected to keep playing the game. I never expected to really buy a bunch of product, but the very first thing they did after giving me the demo with the Mega Man Proto Man demo decks, little 30 card demo decks, the first thing the guy behind the counter, Emerson, did is just pull out a bunch of Red Horizon cards and say, okay, well, we can replace this with Concussion Blast, which I think was a rare or an ultra rare at the time. but also was like coming in. I don't know the rarity, but he pulled out Concussion Blast and Kneecappers and Piercing Howls and all these Miska cards and Iron Wills and just things that would flesh out the other 30 cards really to make it a full deck. It wasn't a week after that I met Shane Duckworth, and he's like, oh, well, you're going to need Last Ditch Gambles and all these Champ promos and, other Jasco promos that just happened to fit the symbol that I had chosen to build on for that character. I think the first ultra rare character I pulled was a banned card, so Shane traded me like 20 rares, play sets of Mega Man tin rares and Darkstalkers tin rares to help flesh out my collection, and those are like some of the more hard up to invest in products. You'd have to be buying a lot of tin products to get multiples of those cards and things like that. And so it was very easy to hit the ground running, and they gave me a lot of incentive to come back. And at that point it was almost like I'm obligated to, right? They've set me up so much. They've gone out of their way to make this an enjoyable experience. And when I was demoing with Shane, it was actually my second demo. I'd had like one previous game before that. We'd started to talk about Raw Deal. Raw Deal being the pro wrestling card game from the early 2000s, and I had a very similar experience with Raw Deal, and a big part of Raw Deal for me was I was really young. I was like 12 years old, I think it was maybe 10 when I started, 10 to 12. And when I first got into Raw Deal, I had showed up to play HeroClix or Mech Warrior or something at this place called Cool Collectibles. And while I was there, I said, oh, cool, you guys have card games and stuff. Where's the Pokemon cards? And the guy's like, we don't really do that. They might have had like some starter boxed collection, probably, the kind of shit you'd find at Target. But I was standing in front of the the pro wrestling cards, and I was like, oh, I didn't know this had a game and stuff. And the guy behind the counter was like, yeah, people show up on this day, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 people who play, they'd be glad to teach you, I'm sure, yada, yada, yada. And I don't remember exactly when, but I ended up buying the Hardy Boys starter deck. I'm a big Hardy Boys fan, especially, at least as a kid, Those were the wrestlers that got me into wrestling, so I just bought the product. You're a stupid kid, you got $10. You're going to spend it in the store. I didn't come to this store not to spend my money. And I showed up on the first of 2 days that they had on their little schedule or whatever. And I waited for hours and no one showed up. And right when I was about to leave and head back for the bus, or like after the guy was like, yeah, I guess they're probably not showing up today, a dude came rolling in on a scooter. Remind you, this is like, 2002, 2003 scooter. So, the scooter culture isn't fully ingrained in America yet. But he comes rolling in. He's maybe 16, 17, 18, something like that, on like a children's Razor scooter. And he's got this big old backpack on, curly hair flipping out of a baseball cap, big thick glasses, and like a 10 o'clock shadow. And he introduces himself as Rico. And he goes, oh, dude, you got the Hardy Boys starter? Tight. But you're going to need this. And he whips out a foil card. The starter comes with like 3 foils and stuff. But he whips out like a foil sideways card. And I'm like, oh, cool. This is Live for the Moment, which turned out to later on be one of the more expensive collectibles just because it has so many characters that can use it. But he slaps that down on the table. He's like, yeah, this is like one of their most important cards. And then you also might want to use this. It's not exactly a staple in most decks, but hey, it's a Hardy Boys card. And he breaks out Poetry in Motion, a trademark finisher, ultra rare, And then He's like, you'll probably need some of these. It's a staple rare. The best generic 0 drop pretty much with super kicks, you know. He takes out extra copies of From the Top Rope because that's the Hardy Boys' whole gimmick. He takes out specific cards for Matt and Jeff individually. You know, he's like, if you ever want to play them by themselves, they can be played by themselves. You don't have to play the tag team. And I was like, that blew my mind. You know, I'd only seen, like, I saw their logos independently on the cards, but not the character cards. And by the end of it, I've got half the cards in my deck replaced. You know, I found out what a backlash deck is, which is that sideways card. You know, something I hadn't seen before. I didn't know was part of the game. It's like mentioned in the rulebook, but you don't get any of those cards in a starter deck. So I've got this huge stack of cards all sorted out now. I've got all the starter chaff taken out. And, you know, he's like, cool, good luck, dude. And he takes off. You know, he didn't even play a game. But the best part of that story, which I thought about not including this because it's going to make some people in my comment section go crazy and wince, but the best part of that story to me is when he took all those cards out, they came out of his backpack from a shoebox, just a loose cardboard shoebox, and inside was just piles of cards. You know, I mean, like just loose, assorted, sliding around, some obviously damaged, you know, some not, most not, I should say. But there's just all these cards. And for a raw deal, like a lot of the rares and the ultra rares are character specific. Like by game mechanic, they have a logo on them that only that character can use. And on top of that, he had all these really generic, just staple rares just sliding around in this box that he puts in his backpack sideways and scooters around Las Vegas in. And I only ever met him the one time. That's the only time I ever ran into this guy. The next day, I think, you know, the Saturday where everyone actually would meet up, you know, everyone recognized who I described. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Rico. Yeah, we know Rico. He's, you know, he's cool. And everyone recognized the giant shoebox. But I never actually saw him again. I don't, you know, never actually played a game of Raw Deal with this man in my life. Maybe he was getting out of the game and that's why it was so easy for him to roll around and just toss cards out. Maybe he heard, you know, at the store that someone had come in and some kid was buying new stuff. Who knows? I don't know. I never saw him again, but, you know, having someone to just say, oh, here's staple stuff that, you know, as a kid, I'm never going to buy the booster packs that had super kicks in them until like a reprint set comes along. You know, I'm never going to know to go out and buy singles on eBay, you know, getting my parents to do shit like that. Although that might be more common nowadays as parents are from my generation, but still, you know, I was saving up my $5 in lunch money every day to go buy $20 worth of booster packs or like a starter deck and 3 boosters. Instead of saving up my money to buy boxes and stuff like that. So it was just such a big help to have all of the characters support that quickly. And then on top of that, the play group that existed here was primarily focused on like big multiplayer play, you know? And I mean, this is like 2003, 2004, and you could think of it as like huge Commander games. The system was just fairly good for it, I would say. It's not necessarily like there's good rules in place for not ganging up on someone, but there are some system mechanics that can make it difficult to really capitalize on stuff like that. There are definitely incentives to beating on the same person, but you know, when it comes to any friend group, you're just not trying to waste everyone's time. And so the vast majority of my time spent playing that game was ultra casual. It was multiplayer, it was politics, it was, we had a guy whose brother didn't even really like the game, I don't think. He would just show up and pick a deck called the Big Freaking Machine, which basically just says your first two moves of the game, your first two attacks are impossible to deal with if you do the deck right. And he would just pick one person and say, you know what, fuck your whole day, fuck your entire game, fuck you because you killed me in a D&D game, fuck you because you ate my last french fry, whatever. And he would just target somebody, and then as soon as they were dead, he would scoop because his deck is out of gas. He's got nothing left to do, And so that was just kind of, part of the experience. And it sounds super dickish in a vacuum, yes, but like with context, within your friend group, why that guy is getting fucked over for whatever he did in the past. So, or just because they lost the dice roll, stuff like that. So, that was a big part of me playing card games, right? Like anything before that is like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, where I'm playing penny sleeves at Barnes and Nobles and getting stamps, and as long as I get a stamp each week, I accomplished something. And that's really what made me think of card games as like a really cool, hobby, I guess. Like, Raw Deal wasn't like super big, so it wasn't like prohibitive to get into. It wasn't very expensive. There wasn't a bunch of, I think there's no rotation really, and they hardly ever had to ban things. Eventually, 13 sets power creep gets there, but the main thing is after that, most of my friends groups in high school and stuff, we play like Yu-Gi-Oh at the library and stuff like that. And, again, just super casual pet decks. It's all about you're already in the same place. You're already there. You're already going to be hanging out and the cards are just there. And it was really cool that a lot of the times a person would really like a card game and they would just buy all the cards that they could for it, because it wasn't a super expensive Magic the Gathering Commander deck style thing. And so we would have one guy would bring Lord of the Rings and we'd all play. And Lord of the Rings had a good multiplayer system. I don't know if it was strictly built for it, but like the way that Twilight works and things like that, where like the more stuff you do, the more resource you give to your opponent. Well, now you have 5 opponents, so like it made it a much more interesting dynamic, I guess you could say. And we would have one person bring Warlord decks. They had all the Warlord CCG cards, and they're all faction based, so you're like, oh, I want to play this faction or that faction this week. And it was just a really cool time to be a casual card gamer where if you really liked the game, you could find people to play it with. Playing Rage, the politics in the werewolf / vampire / white wolf IP games. It was just always better to be in a multiplayer environment. It was just always a cool thing. People could break out and jam before D&D games, afterwards, whatever. And then through high school and like through the college years, not only do those groups drift apart, but the landscape of card gaming really changed, I think, around 2010, 2012, a little bit after that. Something about it became like more focused. People had finally started to realize that the ones with staying power are the big 3 and things attached to a license. And at the same time, not every license was being hunted down just to have a card game. Again, looking at the ones I played, like Raw Deal and, Vampire the Masquerade, right? And so I'd kind of sworn off card games for about, 5 to 6 years, like, halfway through high school into 2013, 2014. They just seemed very rote at the time. Anytime you'd be paying attention, especially to Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always the one with the most exposure, at least as far as like tournament play goes. it would just always seem like it's the same few decks, and like people had shared so much information. This is true about like video gaming too, right? Like the first couple years of League of Legends really pushed the envelope as far as like, let's share all of the optimal information. Let's share all of the, you know, most mathed out ways, I guess you could say, to do everything. And that sort of culture, I think, really impacted me looking into card games whenever I would. Again, my roots being Pokemon also doesn't help, right? Where Pokemon is very much about understanding the meta and deck building from that knowledge. Whereas if you're trying to casually dip your toe into it, a lot of times you just get people saying, play this deck, play these decks, get this card out, you know, this searches this one card. Like it's not as inviting, you know. No one was telling me, you know, when you play Super Kick and then do exactly this card and then search for exactly this card. When I played Raw Deal, they're just like, here's a bunch of the cards you're gonna need, figure it out. You know, there was a card that literally let you tutor 2 cards from the discard pile, and as a kid I couldn't figure out why that's good, because I had to discard 2 cards to do it first. I was like, without thinking in this exact way, I was like, this is just a -1. Like as a kid I played with Bill and Professor Oak, I'm trying to plus, you know, and the selective discard tutor is just actually one of the best cards in that game, you know. And I didn't have people just telling me that and just explaining to me to do that. And so it's not a bad thing, obviously, to provide that information, to, you know, share that level of knowledge about games, but at the same time, it being so readily available means everyone's on this level, right? So when it came to 2014 and I'm in a gamer's paradise and I'm talking to Emerson Ryan Litchfield about board games, you know, and I inquire about this Terry Bogard card, and I'm sitting there the next week with my Proto Man deck, and, you know, Shane's talking to me about Raw Deal and how like a lot of the mechanics and blocking and stuff works in Raw Deal, and about how I played 10 cards in 2 turns, you know, like there was no card game I had played before where I could play 10 cards in a row, basically, you know, or like in 2 turns and not just win the game. You know, there was no game where I could draw up to my hand size, you know, so often and go through so many cards and play on my opponent's turn. And, you know, even like Raw Deal has some really cool interaction points, but usually once you play a card on your opponent's turn, their turn's over, which is cool. We need more of that in UFS. We need more of that in most card games, honestly. But, you know, it didn't allow for that same level of interaction, that back and forth. And when it really comes down to it, that's what hooked me in. That's what drew me in. You know, when I learned how to play Flesh and Blood, I thought it was really cool how easy it is to learn this game. It is absolutely the best game for teaching someone like card game principles, you know, for their first card game ever. They did a very good job making an infrastructure for a game where it's easy to pick up, understand, and do. But at the same time, I fucking hate that I have to discard half my hand to play half my hand. And my hand is only 4 cards. You know, part of that is the reductionist mechanics. And I know you can do like crazy big wild chain plays and, you know, games get more, I guess you could say, complex or deep, right? But when you're learning that demo deck, when you're doing that ninja stuff where you're like, all right, I'm going to discard a blue card and I'm going to play 3/1 cost attacks or whatever, you know, it just doesn't hit the same, you know. And so these mechanics always drew me in. These mechanics, the way the game is set up, was just so incredibly good from the get-go. And having people help me build these decks from the get-go was huge. And that's something I'd really like to be able to do more of, is just like provide decks for people to play. Just if I could be the Universus guy in someone's Magic the Gathering group, where I have all the decks anyone would need to play in a big long box and just loan them out, I would do it. That'd be, I hate to collect stuff because they'll sit in a box or a binder and I feel like it's just not being used. It feels like it's taking up space, and someone out there would be using these cards in the deck or something. But if I had like decks that were just ready to be loaned out, that would be really cool. But when it comes down to it, over the years, we didn't have much of a local scene, and it quickly became the kind of thing where there's so much in the field and everyone's so new. I kind of joined, at least I feel like, in retrospect, there's kind of a new wave. Like, Jasco had just moved to Vegas, reconnected with Brett Hellman, who was a player from Arizona who had moved to Vegas. And it was a lot of us new guys. And the only really established groups at the time were maybe Atlanta and New York. Omaha I feel like Omaha kind of came a little bit after us, but they grew huge really fast. And I think they obviously really hit their stride with Bebop, as far as having like massive attendance and having just like great showings and stuff like that. So definitely some PTC wins before that, don't get me wrong, definitely some good stuff before that. But we showed up really big at the first Worlds that Vegas players had attended and things like that. So it felt like there was a new surge with the Mega Man Darkstalker stins. And anyone who's an old head in the comments can definitely correct me, but we had like a 16-person kind of a local thing going at our peak, but a lot of the time was exploratory tournament grinding, trying to figure out what would be competitive. And at the same time, this game allows for really crazy, fun, cool strategies to fit that mold. Not all the time, of course, and you can go out of your way to just do really bad combos, but that's, I think, the lifeblood of most card games. And it's so interesting because when I was first playing in 2014, 2015, a big selling point I would hear a lot is it's the best competitive card game. It's got the most, skill expression and things like that. And that's super subjective, and you can actually make really good arguments against this game, I think, but only for very specific points like the variance and the fact that like the cost, like an hour game, there's a chance you lose the card when you play it just because of your own deck, right? Like there is the opportunity, like most cards whether or not you can pay for before you play them. And we don't have that with this game. So when it comes to subjective stuff like that, I still think it's definitely one of the highest skill expression games left out there. But at the same time, my best memories are never the tournament grinding. It's never figuring out that my Dimitri one list happens to be like almost exactly the same as someone else's who won an event. I remember I made a Dimitri deck blind, but I think it was the evil symbol. And I just put in all these really good cards. I thought I might have even been Evil Earth. I might have even been trying to duo symbol because I definitely thought that was a cool avenue of play. And I really liked a lot of the cards. And someone, probably Shane Duckworth, but someone had a Dimitri deck that was Life that was there. And I was like, oh, these are almost exactly the same, but I get to play Templar, so I'm super down. And it turned out Life Dimitri was just like the Dimitri to play. And that deck being pretty easy to play, I think, overall, if you have the card pool knowledge, if you have the knowledge of different strategies and stuff, was also a big factor, discovering that early and just being kind of able to coast on the success of Dimitri 1. And most of my failures with it came specifically from being new to the game and not knowing which cards to flip. And you see that skill expression in almost every Dimitri game you can find recorded on YouTube or that was played on a stream or whatever. There's almost always a critical moment where Dimitri could have lost if he flipped the wrong card, or does lose because they flipped the wrong card. And, that kind of choice that gets made every single turn, it just doesn't happen that often in other games, I don't think. You don't get the opportunity to bounce back from it, it's more than just like removal from a board state in Magic. It's less impactful but also more consistent overall. So my favorite memories aren't stuff like that. It's not playing Dragon Flare Grant Padley, and even though that was a goofy deck and it got second place at a soft PTC, like a 32-person event. It is very funny to make a 8-speed mid for 8 into a 12-speed mid for 12 just because your character turned sideways. But, my best memories are going out to eat after the event at the Canes and playing a game with our second deck. It's proving to Chris Pratt, who's on Fiddlesticks, by the way, that you can combo Trinity Geyser into Sarani Giri. It is the moments where I got to travel, and that's something I didn't do a lot. I traveled to the Atlanta Nationals, I want to say 2016. It's probably later than that though, but just because Tim Friedlieb, who managed to get a really good deal for a lot of Vegas players, I never would have been able to do it if it wasn't for him, and if it wasn't for him just caring about the Vegas community. I went to a couple Reno PTCs, but I missed the first couple. I think I managed to drive out to a San Antonio PTC and play maybe the worst deck I've ever registered at a PTC. And that's pretty much it. It was places I could hitch a ride to. And for a long time, I've also heard in the community a common sentiment that you need to have a reason other than the game to travel for it. Or, more so than just not caring about only winning. Like, you need to have other reasons to enjoy the game, and traveling for the game is huge and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, I was a bit of a shitter. There's no better way to really put it. There's plenty of times where on Facebook or on Discord or on the forums or whatever, I wouldn't say mockingly, but at the same time in a very trollish manner, I would bring up the UFS is the best community in gaming kind of comment whenever there was some kind of drama or strife or, even the smallest cracks to the contrary. But at the same time, I was very much an outsider looking in, or at least that's a lot of how it felt. Without the ability to actually travel, to actually meet a lot of the people outside of, world championship events in Las Vegas and stuff, it's just so different now to look back. It's very weird. Whenever I talk about like the events seemed very regional and stuff like that, I'm sure it seemed less that way for a lot of the older, more experienced players. I'm sure it seemed less that way for players who traveled a lot. Tim Friedlieb, he's beloved across the country because he traveled to so many events and played in so many, and managed to top cut quite a few of them. So it it was just an experience I didn't have. And it is kind of strange to me that in the post-COVID world with My Hero Academia, this is when it's really become important to me, I guess. And it's something I wish I had a better perspective on in the past. I used to think I was sticking up for the game, because I would always say, I can travel for the game, you know what I mean? Like, I'm traveling to play the game. The game is the focus, specifically because if I want to hang out with my friends, I don't have to play the card game to do that. If we're friends and we happen to live in different parts of the world, I don't have to use Universus as an excuse to hang out. So when it came down to it's not like I would know these people without the card game. The card game was the most fun part of all of my trips at the time and stuff like that. So that was just my perspective. It just seemed very weird to me. It seemed like players who were very good and winning a lot trying to console bad players and convince them to keep going to tournaments, because you do need pot monsters for a lot of your events, and you want to encourage that participation, and I genuinely don't know how you do that without crazy participation pricing for your casual players. And for a long time, we haven't had a casual community and a competitive community. It's pretty much just always been that the two mix together, because the only time you're going to get to show off your deck is through a competitive event where people are trying to win. It's just how it would be. You'd go to a PTC and you'd look at a lot of the deck lists and you'd go, okay, about half of the top 8 are people who are trying to play the last championship winning deck or the last PTC winning deck, or something that we know could be a contender within a format. And then the other half are people who are just really fucking good at the game and put in a lot of reps with, their favorite version of Gabrick or something. So you got kind of sheltered a bit when you had your pet decks and you had your diversity and you had smaller communities, I guess you could say. So that being said, when it came to My Hero, I just kind of fell into that same sort of line or trap where I wasn't really paying attention. I was kind of goofing off, and then when an actual event would come around, I'd be like, oh shit, I don't actually know what to play. 1 or 2 times I didn't play the deck I meant to play, and it's all my fault, right? I'm a huge fan of Johns. These are not really excuses. These are not really my Johns. But stuff would come up, and it didn't really set into me until, around August or September or so, where it's like I've been neglecting a lot of my casual play. I've been neglecting that exploratory, funny combo, kind of play. And I think part of that might have been that I don't have like a favorite My Hero Academia character, or at least all the ones I like everyone seems to hate. I think Endeavor's unironically a cool character. It just is what it is. So I think he's particularly well written for the little bit of stuff I've actually watched and seen. So without having that like easy avenue to casual play and trying to do edits for competitive play, and also trying to get these points at these regionals, and also trying to on some level prove through results that I know what I'm talking about if I am going to create content where I react to things or I do commentary for broadcast, stuff like that. It just I never drew that line. I never actually realized that there is now really a community for both. And you still see a lot of, overlap between people who are definitely playing casually, definitely playing casual decks, but they're still trying to learn, and they're doing it their way. They're going to eventually, there's going to be a level up moment for a lot of these people where they just set aside whatever character they are playing, that because they realize, okay, I've made this deck as good as it can be, and it's just so close to something that's already in the meta. But that thing in the meta is just that step above, right? You saw a lot of people hop onto Kirishima too, probably for that reason, where they went, man, I really like this Earth deck, but this is just like that one notch above, right? Like it's so, like the decks are so similar. And so, I was just kind of on autopilot a lot of the time because there was no discovery, there was no personal attachment, there was no, there's no joy for the mechanics, there's no joy for the character. Before My Hero came out, and I hope people don't actually have screenshots of this. Before My Hero came out, I talked a lot about how I wanted to be the best Froppy player. I wanted to diversify other Froppies, because at the time I thought we would still have the diversity rule. I actually talked to one of my friends about the game, and I was like, hey man, Froppy's going to be really popular. I'm planning to play her. It's the character he wants to play. And there might be this diversity rule, and, it might be the kind of thing where only the best Froppy gets in. And he thought it was actually hilarious. But he's also not like a super competitive guy, right? So like he thought it would be hilarious if you just ruined someone else's tournament by being a better Froppy than them, and like was super down for just gatekeeping all Froppies. But when they announced that there's no diversity, and then I saw how the Froppy deck actually plays, it just didn't resonate with me. My favorite mechanic is clearing my card pool. My favorite symbol is the air symbol. It is Asui's worst symbol, and she clears her card pool inconsequentially. She clears her card pool regularly like it's fucking nothing. It's, as simple as committing your character and then flipping a foundation. And so it didn't feel special anymore. It didn't feel like a really cool thing, which is why I gravitated towards Danky, because Danky has one chance to clear that card pool, one shot to make huge use of that and play games based around your conceived notions of what I can do with the amount of momentum and the amount of card pool clearing that I have and stuff like that. And, that's the only deck I really iterated on. That's the only time I felt like, I don't know, it was something that I had come up with, I guess. Even though I'm sure Unwavering Slash plus Sports Festival Stadium is not a wholly unique idea, but I mean, that's also part of card games in general. Like I talked about with Dimitri, right? Where it's not important to me to be the first person to come up with something. It's not important to me to be wholly original, especially after like the first event of a given format. And so trying to decide what was really important to me, trying to figure out what was such a big deal for me with this card game was pretty tough. And it's because I was applying the lens that I used to apply, where it was about the card game, where it was about how much I enjoyed the mechanics, how much I enjoyed the card design, how much I enjoy the flavor of it, the IPs behind it, right? There's always been a character pretty much in every fighting game set I can not identify with, that's probably not the right word, but I can really connect to. The Street Fighter set had Vega, which is just a really cool concept, and his mechanics were really cool. Even though I don't really like playing the character, I love the concept of his fighting game mechanics, the losing the claw, the mask, and all the implications and stuff like that. So not a character I would actually play, and not like a personality that I would identify with. However, his game mechanics in Street Fighter and his game mechanics both in Universus resonated with me super hard. And that character was pretty good, so that helps too. You know, on top of that, I thought the Sagat design from Street Fighter was super cool. It was a little restricted, but super cool. The King of Fighters stuff is all so well done. It's almost a curse that the Street Fighter stuff was what I was King of Fighters stuff was what I was introduced with, because I don't even know if they realize, this might seem rude, but I don't even know if the people who designed those sets realize how good they nailed it. You know, like there's only like maybe one or two characters, not even teams, like one or two characters that just, you know, someone would have to explain to me where they came from, and like one or two that might seem like they were just put into a mechanical pigeonhole with their team rather than like what they do. And so, you know, I bought Soul Calibur 6 because Soul Calibur was coming out for Universus, and I was like, well, I've learned all the other fighting games by now, like I haven't touched 3D, I'll give it a shot. And you know, I thought Yoshimitsu was going to be the only character I played, and then Yoshimitsu played in such a different way in both Soul Calibur and in Universus. It kind of, you know, I went other directions with it, but, you know, there's still so many great designs from those sets that I can just I can be playing Soul Calibur 6 and I can be understanding why they gave certain characters certain abilities, you know. Mortal Kombat is a game I don't like at all, but when I play Mortal Kombat with my friends who like Mortal Kombat, I pick Kotal Kahn and I just grab them and hold them in the stupid sun ray that heals me and damages them, and they just get really upset, and it's fine. You know, I think I'm almost undefeated in Mortal Kombat, actually, and I fucking don't like the game at all. And all I do is just summon the stupid sunbeam that does, like, unblockable damage. It's like unnegatable damage if you're standing in it, and using throws to hold you in the sunbeam longer. And, like, what does Kotal Kahn do? He makes attacks, throws, and, you know, gives you unstoppable damage effectively if you don't have, you know, unblockable damage. So I thought that stuff was all really cool, and there was always something to find mechanically. And with My Hero, it's been a lot tougher, you know. When it comes to My Hero, the design is in such a shitty place. You know, they've mentioned before once or twice about the struggles with how set 1 came out and then how set 2 was designed, and, you know, set 3 I don't know much about at all. I don't think they've continued to really share too many secrets on that, but I don't think the design team likes a lot of the stuff I've liked in the past. That's just the impression I get. And so it's been kind of tough. Like, even the decks that fit my style, like a slower, grindy style, they're just pushed out competitively, and it's felt really bad. And I just wish that, like, it was more friendly to casual play too, because it's, like, for example, the most obvious example is Recovery Girl. Which I did play against one at the online nationals, and it took almost the whole hour to do 2 games just because we were both looking at our discard files so much, and it was webcam. Both players, you know, my opponent played very fast. Like, it had nothing to do with, like, rate of play, just actually doing that much damage and passing all those checks and things like that. So, you know, that character put into a casual environment gets to fulfill a lot of the slow, grindy sort of gameplay that I was attracted to. And she gets to do some really wacky combos, guys. Like, there's actually really interesting stuff you can do with Recovery Girl just because so many things are based on dealing damage, and you can force out answers. And anyway, so dropping that into a casual environment doesn't feel great. Like, people don't want to play a 30-minute game 1 where they have to keep asking what's in your discard pile, and you have to fan it out, you know, and, like, just to keep the rate of play up. So it's just been very tough. Like, I haven't made it to my locals anywhere near as much as I'd like. And the actual playing of the game has just not been as relevant as I wanted it to. But again, it's because I was holding myself to this weird older standard. I was using a completely different lens to examine things, and now all my favorite memories are not necessarily pulling off wacky 6 difficulty, 9 card combos at an IHOP. It's flying out to Orlando to play a deck that I worked on and actually iterated on. It's sitting in the hotel lobby after nationals talking to people about what we would personally ban or cards we would actually reprint. It's people walking up to me and saying, "Hey man, I like your channel," and shaking my hand. It's when Aspira hits me up on Discord to ask if I want to work an event, It's all these different things that my perception of myself, I wouldn't assume about myself. All my favorite memories about the game now are sitting in a Discord chat with people from all over the world just talking shit about the most ridiculous bad beat stories we've had. And, with the last couple formats, there's a lot of bad beat stories. So it's a weird place to be, post-COVID, having events and having get-togethers and all this stuff has been really weird. But for me personally, COVID moving things to an online space has helped me a lot. It's helped me feel like I'm more a part of the community, I guess is the best way to put it. So I think I don't think this would have always been my answer if you had asked me 2018, 2017, stuff like that. But if you ask me why I play Universus now, the answer is 100% because of you guys. Because of anyone watching this video, anyone who sleeves up a deck at their locals, anybody who posts in the MHA CCG discussion, on a regular basis about all their stupid hot takes and all their favorite characters and all their wacky combos. It's just a community now. And I don't know. I just wish I had felt that way sooner, I guess. But thank you guys for checking out this video. I know it was a long, rambly one, but it's one I needed to make, at least for myself. Hopefully, I will still be involved with the Hero League Championship in some capacity. If not, you'll see my ass outside the doors live streaming, trying to get updates. Being in Vegas, which I assume is where it's still being held. I'll try to be involved in some way, but, hopefully between now and when the next competitive season, this was season 1. Let's be real. This whole thing was season 1. I know we had seasons 1, 2, 3, whatever. This whole year, this Hero League Championship was season 1. So hopefully before the next competitive season starts, I can really get back to my roots. I'm going to try and play more games with people on TTS, hopefully open up my Discord and use that as a tool to find people and just play some casual games, find the fun in the game again, and realize that even if it's not about the cards being fun, it's the community that has carried me this far for almost a decade playing Universus. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.